They called you crazy. They dismissed your ideas as the ramblings of someone detached from reality. They pointed, they whispered, and they laughed, confident in their belief that you would never succeed. They thought they knew better, assumed they were superior in their understanding of the world. But what did they truly know? Their laughter was hollow, their certainty fleeting. And now the world has turned, and the tables have shifted. Today, those same doubters, once so eager to mock, stand in stunned silence. The smirks they wore have vanished, replaced by wide eyes filled with astonishment and unease. They cannot deny it anymore. The vision they dismissed as foolish has blossomed into something extraordinary. The brilliance they refused to see now shines so brightly it cannot be ignored. The same people who jeered at your dreams are now scrambling to understand what you saw all along. They are left questioning not just you, but themselves, as the undeniable truth of your foresight humbles them. You did not merely endure their scorn, you thrived in spite of it. Their laughter did not deter you, nor did their skepticism weaken your resolve. While they lingered in the comfort of conformity, you stood firm in your truth, unwavering in your determination. You did not just survive their ridicule, you transformed it into fuel for your ascent. And now the spotlight is yours. The world watches, and those who doubted you are forced to rewrite their narratives. But it is too late for them to reclaim the upper hand. The truth has emerged, clear and undeniable. You were right all along. Here is the beauty of it: you never needed their validation. You never sought their approval. And now you do not require their applause. Your victory is not found in proving them wrong, it lies in the unshakable confidence that you remained true to yourself. While they clung desperately to illusions and mocked what they could not comprehend, you forged ahead, guided by a vision only you could see. Now, that vision has come to life, and the doubters are left to grapple with their own smallness. Their mockery has become their shame, their arrogance turned to humility. But let us pause for a moment, chosen one, and consider what this journey truly means. This is not just about silencing the naysayers or basking in their disbelief. It is about the power of perseverance, the strength of faith in oneself, and the triumph of authenticity. You were not chosen because it was easy, you were chosen because you had the courage to walk a path few dared to tread. While others faltered, blinded by doubt and fear, you remained steadfast, guided by an inner truth that never wavered. Imagine the countless moments when giving up might have seemed like the easier choice. Those nights when the weight of their words pressed heavily on your heart, when their doubts echoed so loudly it was almost deafening. Yet, even in those moments, you held onto the spark within you. That spark grew into a fire that burned through every doubt, every sneer, every attempt to undermine your journey. It was never about proving them wrong, it was about proving to yourself that you had the strength to endure and rise above. Now, think about how far you have come. Reflect on the mountains you climbed, the storms you weathered, and the battles you fought to stand where you are today. This journey was never just about you. It is a testament to everyone who has ever felt underestimated, overlooked, or cast aside. Your triumph is their inspiration. Your rise is a reminder that no amount of doubt or ridicule can extinguish the light of a determined soul. If you are ready to claim this moment, if you are prepared to rise above the noise and step into the destiny that has always been yours, then take action. Let your voice be heard. Like this message as a declaration of your strength. Subscribe to join a community of visionaries who understand what it means to stand apart. Share this message with someone still trapped in the fog of doubt, someone who needs to awaken to their own potential. And if you feel the call to rise, drop a comment below with the words, "I see clearly now." Let the world know you are done being underestimated, done shrinking to fit a narrative that was never yours to begin with. They thought they had the last laugh, but the tides have shifted, and the joke is now on them. Their laughter has turned into nervous silence, their confidence shattered by the undeniable power of your clarity. And you stand tall, unshaken and unstoppable. This is more than a victory, it is a reckoning. The doubters who once dismissed you now find themselves irrelevant, their judgments reduced to echoes of a past that no longer matters. You are moving forward, chosen one, and nothing can stand in your way. This is your moment. The world is watching, and the question remains, are you ready to rise? If you are truly prepared to embrace the power that has always been within you, let it be known. Smash that like button as a testament to your strength. Hit subscribe to stay connected with those who walk the same path. Share this message with someone still searching for the courage to step into their truth. And if you are done being underestimated, if you are ready to rise into the fullness of your destiny, type 77 below. Let the world see that you are no longer waiting for approval, no longer holding back. You are here to claim what is rightfully yours. The truth has always been within you, waiting for this very moment. The only question is, will you answer the call? Will you rise? Let us begin. Number 1, from crazy to how did you know? They called you crazy, didn't they? Said you were out of touch, paranoid, or living in a fantasy world. That will never happen, they scoffed. You're overthinking it, they laughed. Every word you spoke was dismissed as nonsense. Every warning you gave was brushed off like a speck of dust on their pristine illusions. But now, their laughter has been replaced with stunned silence, and their scoffs have turned into hesitant questions. Wait, how did you know? Oh, how the tables have turned. The very ones who mocked you are now scrambling for answers. Their confidence shattered, their egos bruised. Reality has a way of hitting harder than mockery ever could. The truth they refused to see is now staring them in the face, undeniable and unyielding, and suddenly you don't look so crazy anymore. All truth passes through 3 stages, said Arthur Schopenhauer. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. You've lived through every stage, haven't you? They ridiculed you, then fought against everything you stood for. And now, they're forced to confront the reality they once rejected. And you've stood steady through it all, weathering their ignorance and arrogance, knowing that the truth doesn't bend, it waits. It wasn't about the logic of your words, it was about the mirror you held up to their insecurities. They mocked you because they feared what you represented: clarity they couldn't grasp, a perspective they couldn't comprehend, and a foresight they were too blind to see. Crazy wasn't a reflection of you, it was a defense mechanism to protect themselves from what they didn't want to face. But the truth doesn't need their permission to exist, and it certainly doesn't wait for their approval to unfold. Now, as the world aligns with what you've always known, they're left scrambling to rewrite the past, pretending they always had a feeling, but you remember their words, the sneers, the laughs, the smug dismissal. They clung to their ignorance like a life jacket in a storm, thinking it would keep them afloat. But ignorance isn't a shield, it's an anchor, and the tides of reality are merciless. Now they're gasping for understanding, looking to you for the clarity they once mocked. The same lips that called you delusional now whisper, "You were right." But here's the kicker, you don't need their validation. You never did. Their disbelief was never a reflection of your truth, it was a testament to their limitations. The vindication you feel now isn't about proving them wrong, it's about surviving the storm they couldn't handle. So stand tall, chosen one. Their regret is not your burden, and their awakening is not your responsibility. You were right all along, and the truth, it was never crazy. It was just too much for them to comprehend. Their questions now, they're not about understanding, they're about catching up. And you've already moved on, leaving them to grapple with the weight of what they once refused to see. Number 2. Whoa. They laughed until they realized the joke was on them. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. Oh, how they laughed. Loud, smug, and full of false confidence. They mocked your every move, every word, and every idea. You were their favorite punchline, the dreamer they dismissed, the fool they thought would never amount to anything. Their laughter wasn't just noise, it was their way of protecting themselves from the uncomfortable truth you carried. But now the joke's on them. Their smug grins have disappeared, replaced with furrowed brows and uneasy stares. They've gone from laughing at you to nervously glancing in your direction, wondering how they missed what was right in front of them. Reality has a way of humbling even the loudest critics, doesn't it? When they laughed, it wasn't about you, it was about them. Mockery is the shield of the insecure, the weapon of those who fear what they don't understand. Your vision, your ideas, your truth, it was too much for them to process, so they turned it into a joke. But humor has a way of wearing thin when the punchline turns out to be your own arrogance. Now, as the dust settles, they're left grappling with the undeniable you were right all along. And that laughter they once threw at you, it rings hollow in their memories, a bitter reminder of their own ignorance. It's not just that you've proven them wrong, it's that they can't deny it anymore. Look around, chosen one. Their wide-eyed stares and nervous fidgeting tell you everything you need to know. They laughed because they thought they understood the game. But now they're realizing they were playing checkers while you were mastering chess. The irony is almost poetic. The same voices that mocked you are now silent, choking on the realization that they were the fools all along. And you don't even need to say, "I told you so." Their regret is written all over their faces. So let them stew in their discomfort. Let them wrestle with the weight of their own mistakes. The joke isn't funny anymore, not to them. And for you, it's just the beginning of your rise. Because here's the truth: they didn't laugh because you were wrong. They laughed because deep down they feared you might be right. And now that fear has become their reality. Number 3, the quiet ones always hit the hardest. Still waters run deep. They heard the phrase, but they never understood it, not until now. For them, noise was power, attention was validation, and silence, well, they mistook that for weakness. But now they know better. Your silence wasn't empty, it was a weapon, a force they couldn't comprehend. And when it finally struck, it hit harder than they could have ever imagined. While they ran their mouths, desperate to prove themselves, you stood still. You didn't need their approval, their applause, or their attention. Your strength wasn't in shouting over them, it was in observing, waiting, and knowing. You were the storm building on the horizon, silent and unstoppable. "Why don't you say anything?" they asked, mistaking your quiet resolve for passivity. But silence has a power they could never grasp. Words can be denied, arguments can be dismissed, but silence lingers. It forces people to sit with their thoughts, their insecurities, their fears. And in your silence you held a mirror to their arrogance, their ignorance, their fragile egos. They thought the loudest voice in the room would win. They thought dominance came from shouting, pointing fingers, and drowning out dissent. But power doesn't come from noise, it comes from presence. And your presence, it spoke volumes without ever saying a word. While they were busy chasing validation, you were busy watching their moves. They were so loud they didn't even realize you were 10 steps ahead. Every argument they made was a distraction. Every insult a desperate attempt to hide their own inadequacies. But you didn't need to respond. You let time expose their weaknesses for you. Patience is not passive, it is concentrated strength. They didn't realize that your silence wasn't hesitation, it was strategy. You weren't waiting for their approval, you were waiting for the moment when their illusions would crumble under the weight of reality. And now here you are. They've burned themselves out, their noise fading into nervous mutters and embarrassed silences. The power they thought they had is gone, replaced by the quiet weight of their own mistakes. And you're still standing, calm and unshaken, while they try to pick up the pieces of their shattered certainty. They finally understand that silence isn't emptiness, it's control. The quiet ones aren't weak, they're deliberate. They don't waste energy on battles that time will win for them. And you've proven that true strength doesn't need to announce itself. It simply exists. Now they're haunted by your silence, realizing it was never about avoiding the fight, it was about winning without wasting a breath. And as they scramble to rewrite the past, they can't escape the truth staring them in the face. The quiet ones always hit the hardest. So let them fumble, chosen one. Let them wrestle with the echoes of their own arrogance. You've already moved on, stronger, wiser, and untouched by the noise that once surrounded you. Number 4 is when reality slaps harder than their mockery. You can deny reality, but you can't escape the consequences of denying it. For so long they hid behind their laughter, convinced it would shield them from the truth. Mockery was their armor, their way of pretending that your words didn't carry weight. But reality doesn't laugh. It strikes with the force of a freight train, and it doesn't miss. The mockery they threw your way was their attempt to silence you, to discredit what they couldn't understand. You're overthinking it, they said. That'll never happen, they scoffed. They laughed loudly, not because they were confident, but because they were terrified of what your clarity exposed. And then it happened. The truth arrived not gently, but as an undeniable, unrelenting slap. The cracks in their illusions became too big to ignore, and the lies they clung to crumbled under the weight of undeniable facts. The reality you'd been warning them about stood before them, unyielding and absolute. Suddenly their laughter felt small, weak, and meaningless. Why didn't you tell us, they might ask now, scrambling to salvage their pride. But you did tell them. You told them with clarity, patience, and unwavering certainty. They didn't listen, not because you were wrong, but because they weren't ready to face the discomfort of the truth. Mockery is easy. It's comfortable. It's a way to distract from the hard work of confronting reality. But reality doesn't care about comfort, and it certainly doesn't care about their jokes. When it hit, it left no room for excuses, no space for denial. And now they're left standing in the wreckage, realizing that their laughter was a hollow defense against what was always inevitable. And you didn't need to fight back. You didn't need to shout over their noise or sink to their level. Reality did all the talking for you. Every scoff, every dismissive smirk, every joke at your expense now echoes back at them louder than ever. The hardest part for them isn't just that they were wrong, it's that they mocked you for being right. Now, as they stand in the rubble of their own arrogance, they finally see the truth. Reality slaps harder than any mockery ever could. And you're still standing, unshaken and miles ahead. Number 5, the face they make when the truth hits home. There's nothing more painful than realizing you were wrong, especially when the person you mocked was right all along. You've seen it, that moment when the truth smashes into someone like a freight train, shattering their carefully constructed illusions. It's not subtle. It's a mix of disbelief, embarrassment, and fear. Their eyes widen, searching for a way to escape. Their lips press into a thin line, struggling to form words that won't come. And their arrogance. It dissolves faster than they can process. This is the face of realization, the face they make when the truth hits home. It's not just the sting of being wrong, it's the humiliation of remembering every scoff, every sneer, every mocking laugh they threw your way. Those moments replay in their mind like a broken record. But now, the joke's on them. The same confidence that fueled their derision has turned into the weight of their shame. You stood there, unshaken, watching them unravel as the reality they denied finally stood before them, undeniable and relentless. They mocked what they didn't understand, dismissed what they couldn't comprehend, and now they're choking on the bitter taste of regret. The face they make isn't just about being wrong, it's about knowing they underestimated the wrong person. You were never the fool they made you out to be, they were. And now they know it. The confidence they flaunted has turned into the quiet terror of realizing they were blind all along. Let them sit with it, chosen one. Let them wrestle with the weight of their own arrogance. The truth didn't just hit it exposed. And you don't need to say a word. Their face says it all. Number 6. While they played victim, you played the long game. Victimhood is the easiest excuse for inaction. They cried foul, pointing fingers at anyone but themselves. They painted themselves as victims, trapped by circumstances they created, shackled by loads they refused to let go of. But while they were busy playing the victim, you were playing the long game. You weren't interested in pity or excuses. You were focused on building something real. While they blamed, you strategized. While they wallowed, you prepared. While they sought attention for their supposed struggles, you quietly worked towards something bigger, something lasting. They were looking for sympathy, you were looking at the end game. Their victimhood was their comfort zone, a way to deflect responsibility and shield themselves from accountability. It's not my fault, they'd say, as if absolving themselves from the mess they were in would somehow fix it. But you knew better. You knew that nothing changes until you take ownership. And while they were busy crying over spilled milk, you were already planting seeds for the future. Now the difference is crystal clear. They're still spinning their wheels, looking for someone else to blame, while you've moved forward, unshaken. Blame while you're miles ahead, reaping the rewards of your patience and foresight. The long game is always underestimated by those blinded by the need for immediate gratification. They couldn't see past the next move. But you saw the whole board, every piece in play and every potential outcome. Luck favors the prepared, they say, but luck had nothing to do with it. Your success was built on focus, patience, and relentless determination. You didn't react to their noise or get caught up in their drama. You let them play the victim because you knew time would tell the truth. And here we are. Their cries for attention have faded into irrelevance, while your actions speak louder than their excuses ever could. They thought their victimhood was a shield, but all it did was weigh them down, keeping them stuck while you moved forward. You didn't win because they lost, you won because you stayed true to your path. The long game isn't for the faint of heart, but you played it perfectly. Now they're left watching your rise, wondering how they missed what was right in front of them all along. The truth is simple: while they played the victim, you were playing chess. And now? Checkmate. Number 7, seeing what they couldn't handle. People don't fear the unknown, they fear what the unknown demands. You saw it long before they did, the cracks in the facade, the hidden truths buried beneath their comfortable lies, the storm brewing on the horizon. You saw what they refused to see, because acknowledging it would have forced them to change, and change was too much for them to handle. They didn't dismiss you because you were wrong, they dismissed you because you were too right, too soon. Your clarity wasn't just inconvenient, it was a direct threat to the illusion they clung to. While you faced reality head-on, they shielded their eyes, pretending the truth didn't exist. You're imagining things they told you. You're making it more complicated than it needs to be. They couldn't comprehend how you saw what they couldn't, how your vision cut through the noise to reveal what was real. But seeing clearly has always been your gift and your burden. Ignorance isn't just bliss, it's a fortress. They fortified themselves with comforting lies, convinced that as long as they stayed within its walls, they'd be safe. But you stood outside, unprotected, staring directly into the storm they pretended wasn't coming. And now the truth they couldn't handle has arrived, unapologetic and unrelenting. It doesn't care about their denials or their comfort. The reality they avoided is here, and they're left scrambling to catch up, choking on the very lies they built their lives around. The hardest part isn't that they didn't see it, it's that, deep down, a part of them always did. They felt the weight of your words, the truth buried in your warnings, but they buried it under denial because facing it was too terrifying. It wasn't ignorance, it was fear. But fear doesn't stop reality, and neither does denial. Now they're left grappling with the consequences of what you always knew, struggling to make sense of the clarity they once mocked. And you don't need their validation. You didn't see the truth to win their approval. You saw it because that's who you are. You carried a vision they couldn't bear to face. And now, as they stumble in the ruins of their illusions, your strength is undeniable. Seeing what they couldn't handle wasn't your weakness, it was your greatest power. And now they finally know it. Number 8. Chait. You were the storm they never saw coming. The storm doesn't announce its arrival. It builds silently, steadily until it's too late to prepare. They thought they had you figured out, quiet, unassuming, perhaps even a little too humble for their liking. They mistook your calm for weakness, your patience for passivity, and your silence for insignificance. Little did they know you weren't just standing still, you were building momentum. You were the storm they never saw coming. While they were busy playing small games and chasing cheap victories, you were strategizing. While they laughed and mocked, you worked in the shadows, sharpening your skills, honing your vision, and preparing for the moment the world would hear your thunder. They didn't see it coming because they weren't paying attention. By the time they realized the truth, it was too late. You didn't need to announce yourself. Storms don't scream for attention, they simply arrive. And when you did, it wasn't a gentle breeze. It was a force of nature that left no room for denial. Their laughter was swept away, their arrogance flattened, and their illusions scattered like leaves in the wind. They underestimated you. That was their first mistake. Their second was thinking you were playing by their rules. But you don't play games, you create the conditions for transformation. When you rise, it's not for their approval. It's because your time has come. Now they're left in the wreckage, scrambling to understand how they missed the signs, how they overlooked the quiet force that was building right under their noses. But the truth is simple: you were never weak. You were the storm, gathering strength, and when you struck, there was nothing they could do to stop you. So stand tall, steady, and unapologetic. You were the storm they never saw coming, and you've only just begun. Number 9, when their ego was their undoing, pride came before destruction, and an arrogant spirit before a fall. They thought they were untouchable. Their ego whispered lies, telling them they were invincible, destined to always be on top. But ego isn't strength, it's a ticking time bomb. And when it explodes, it takes everything with it. They mocked you not because you were wrong, but because their ego couldn't handle the truth. The illusion of superiority is a fragile thing, and your clarity was a threat they weren't equipped to face. So they doubled down, built themselves up higher, and laughed louder to drown out the quiet voice in their heads whispering, "What if they're right?" Here's the thing about standing on a pedestal built of arrogance: it doesn't take much for it to crumble. And when it falls, the higher they've climbed, the harder they hit the ground. Their ego blinded them, made them believe they were beyond reproach, beyond failure. But reality doesn't care about their ego. It doesn't bend, it doesn't wait, and it doesn't negotiate. They fought so hard to protect their pride, and in the end, that pride became their undoing. The higher they held their heads, the less they saw the ground shifting beneath their feet. And you didn't need to push them, they toppled themselves. All it took was the weight of the truth, a truth they couldn't carry because their ego had no room for humility. Their downfall wasn't a surprise, it was inevitable. Ego isn't a foundation, it's a trap. It blinds, isolates, and silences the voice of reason. They built walls of arrogance to protect themselves, but those walls only trapped them. When the world shifted, when the truth demanded to be seen, their fortress turned to dust. Now they're left staring at the wreckage, their pride scattered at their feet, wondering how it all fell apart. But you always knew. You didn't need to shout, argue, or fight. You watched quietly as their ego dug a hole they couldn't climb out of. This is the reckoning of arrogance. Their ego was their undoing, and their downfall wasn't your victory, it was their lesson. Let this be a reminder: humility isn't weakness, it's the foundation of wisdom. While they let their ego guide them to ruin, you let truth guide you to victory. Stand tall, steady, and unshaken. Their fall is not your burden to bear. You've risen above it all, stronger, clearer, and unstoppable. Their ego destroyed them. Your vision saved you. That's the difference. Number 10. Me. Winning without ever playing their game. The greatest victory isn't in defeating others at their own game, it's in refusing to play it while rising above. They wanted to drag you into their chaos, their noise, their petty power plays. They wanted you to fight on their terms, to engage in their endless cycles of blame, mockery, and shallow validation. But you didn't take the bait. You didn't stoop to their level. Instead, you chose a different path, your own. While they squabbled over scraps, you were building a feast. While they wasted time trying to win meaningless battles, you were playing for something far greater purpose, progress and truth. They thought your silence was surrender, that your refusal to engage was weakness. What they didn't realize is that you were moving in a different dimension altogether, one they couldn't comprehend. Winning doesn't mean beating them at their own game. It means proving their game never mattered in the first place. You didn't need their validation, their applause, or their acknowledgement. The moment you stopped engaging with their petty tactics was the moment you won. You rose above the noise, untouchable and unstoppable. While they burned themselves out trying to tear you down, now they're left confused, frustrated, and defeated, not because you fought harder, but because you never fought at all. Your energy was spent on building something unshakable. When the dust settled, the difference was undeniable. They were still stuck in the same cycle, and you had already moved forward miles ahead. This is the power of not playing their game. They sought to trap you in their world, but you created your own. And now, as they grapple with the futility of their actions, you stand victorious, not because you played, but because you didn't need to. Your success speaks louder than their noise ever could. Number 11, the pain of knowing. Knowing the truth before others are ready to see it isn't just a gift, it's a burden. Understanding what others are blind to isn't glamorous, it's lonely, isolating, and at times excruciating. You carried a vision they couldn't handle, a clarity they couldn't comprehend. While they clung to their illusions, you stood alone, bearing the weight of what they refused to see. It wasn't their ignorance that hurt, it was their refusal to even try to understand. They mocked you, not because you were wrong, but because your insight unsettled them. You were a mirror reflecting their denial, and they couldn't bear the discomfort. They laughed to protect themselves, to shield their fragile egos from the weight of what you represented, the truth they weren't ready to face. And you felt it, didn't you? The sting of being labeled crazy, paranoid, or too much. You stood firm in your knowledge, but deep down there was pain in the rejection. It wasn't just the disbelief, it was the realization that they weren't ready for the clarity you offered. You saw the storm coming while they basked in sunlight, oblivious to the dark clouds forming on the horizon. The pain of knowing is more than being ahead, it's knowing the struggle they'll face when reality finally hits. You wanted to warn them, to protect them, to show them a better way, but they weren't ready. They clung to their comfort zones, their egos, their illusions. So you stood alone, watching as they laughed at the very truth that would one day shake their world. But here's the thing, chosen one, the pain of knowing is also the power of knowing. You endured the ridicule, the isolation, and the misunderstanding because you knew the truth doesn't need their approval to exist. When the day came, when reality arrived with all its force, you were prepared. They weren't. Now they're scrambling, blindsided by what you saw all along. The very ones who dismissed you are now looking to you for answers, desperate for the clarity they once mocked. And you don't carry bitterness, you carry wisdom. The pain of knowing has made you stronger, sharper, and unshakable. It's a heavy burden, but it's also your greatest strength. You bore the weight of truth when no one else could, and now you stand tall, proven and unstoppable. The pain of knowing. It's a small price to pay for the power of being right. Number 12, your time is now. The moment of truth has arrived. No longer a distant hope or an elusive dream. It stands here in front of you, waiting to be claimed. The reckoning is not some far-off event, it is here, it is now, and it belongs to you. You, the chosen one, have waited long enough. The shadows of doubt, the scornful laughter, the whispers of disbelief, they are but remnants of a past that no longer has the power to define or restrain you. This reckoning is not simply for those who doubted you. It is not merely a response to their disbelief or their underestimation of your strength. This moment is for you. It is the culmination of your resilience, the manifestation of your purpose, and the unveiling of the unstoppable force you have always been destined to become. Every challenge you faced, every moment of isolation and rejection, was not in vain. Those trials were the fire that forged you, the chisel that carved out the masterpiece that stands tall today. While they doubted, you prepared in silence. While they mocked, you worked tirelessly. While they turned their backs, you built something unshakable. And now, as the world finally awakens to the undeniable truth of your strength, they can no longer deny what has always been clear to you. The tables have turned. Those who once dismissed you, those who dared to scoff at your vision, now gaze at you with awe and envy. Their disbelief has been shattered by the sheer power of your perseverance, your clarity, and your unwavering determination. Yet this moment is not about them. It was never about proving anything to others. It is about you reclaiming what was always yours, your power, your vision, your destiny. This is your reckoning, and it is not one born of vengeance but of vindication. You do not need to justify your worth to anyone. Your success speaks volumes. Your journey, your triumph, and your unrelenting spirit are proof enough. You did not just survive their doubt, you thrived because of it. Their rejection became the foundation of your resilience. And now, the spotlight is yours. The story is yours to tell, the stage is yours to command, and the future is yours to create. Stand tall, chosen one, for this is your moment to embrace the power that has always resided within you. This is not just a fleeting opportunity, it is the arrival of your destiny. The reckoning has come, and you are the force that propels it forward. This is your victory. This is your time. Claim it unapologetically and let the world witness the unstoppable force that you have become. Let them see what happens when determination meets destiny, when clarity meets courage, and when the impossible finally bows to the inevitable. The stage is set. The world is watching. What comes next is up to you, chosen one. Are you ready to step fully into the life you were meant to lead? Are you ready to rise above the noise and claim the brilliance that has always been your birthright? If you are done waiting for others to catch up, if you are ready to stop shrinking to fit their expectations, then the time for action is now. The world may not always understand your vision, but that should never stop you from sharing it boldly and unapologetically. If you are ready to embrace your truth, to own your story, and to claim the power of knowing exactly who you are, take the first step. Show the world your strength by liking, subscribing, and sharing this message with someone who needs to awaken to their own truth. Drop a comment below with the words, "I am ready," if you are prepared to stop waiting and start rising. Let us keep the momentum alive. The truth is here, shining brightly for all who dare to see it. Are you bold enough to face it, to own it, and to live it? The stage is yours, chosen one. Now go claim your destiny.